Hello, everybody. It is so nice to be back. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Mara Walsh, and I am your host today. It feels like it's been a long time since we last got together for a virtual tour. I spent a couple weeks in Ecuador and had a great time in the Galapagos Islands. It is the only place on the earth that I have visited where the wildlife do not perceive humans as predators. They have done such a great job of protecting this region that the wildlife interacts in a way that makes you feel like you belong there and you are not an intruder. It's so important to keep your distance and to treat the flora and fauna with great respect. I hope to take a group there in the future. And if you're interested in following along with any of our trips that we do, we have a private Facebook group on Facebook, Girl Travel Tours, and you can check us out as we go along on our journeys and you can follow us. So back to the virtual tour. I'm so excited to be hosting this virtual tour to explore a region that I have never been to, but has become very popular. I'm planning to take a group here in May of 2024. We are going to Slovenia today. It is so exciting to look forward to new real life adventures in the coming months and the years, but also I'm very happy to be able to continue to bring those experiences to you virtually. And I am in the United States, specifically between Philadelphia and New York. This is the Eastern time zone. So if you have to convert time when you see our virtual tour times, that's what you'll use. So you'll use your city and my city, convert it. There's great tools out there on the internet. I use the one called World Travel Buddy. It's awesome. And it shows you what time it is in my region and your region so that you never miss a virtual tour live. As you may know by now, we're not traveling. We're not traveling when we're not traveling virtually. I host groups on physical tours as well as help others plan their own family and group vacations. My tours are open to all women and men, and my summer trips are open to ages teens through seniors. You can tell it's been a couple of weeks that I've hosted a virtual tour because my tongue is not caught up to my brain here, and my brain doesn't work too fast. So if it's not caught up, you know there's something wrong. Anyway, when COVID struck, we were able to travel on a virtual way and not able to travel physically. So we started traveling with my tour guide friends virtually. I really wanted to support the tour director community during this time of travel restrictions where we have not been able to have them work. And I really wanted to keep the excitement alive for my travel group and so many of you. So this serves both purposes quite well. We've done more than 75 virtual tours, and the recordings are available on my website, girltraveltours.com. They're also available on my Facebook page as well as YouTube. And we have several more tours planned for this coming year. Many are listed on my website, and they are ready for you to register. I'm going to put up a list of them right here so that you can see. Coming up next are the Cayman Islands at the end of March, Como and the Lake region, April 5th, Galilee to Jerusalem, right in the Passover and Easter timeframe of April 12th, the historic district of San Diego, California, which is April 19th, and then Madrid, which was rescheduled from earlier this year and will now be May 11th. We will continue to try to produce these virtual tour presentations as long as there is an interest in them. As you can imagine, many of my tour guide friends are getting back to work physically, which is great, and we are all very excited about. So we may have to experience a little lull during a high travel season to do our virtual tours, but I'm sure there are enough recordings to keep everybody busy while we are out traveling. In fact, speaking of travel, I am going to be opening up a tour that aligns very well with this virtual tour. We have a new destination, including Slovenia and Croatia, going off in May 31st of 2024. The tour package price starts at about $3,800, but you can plan on adding another $2,000 or so for airfare, excursions, insurance, and other options. And of course, if you're interested in that tour or any of my tours that are coming up, feel free to drop me a line at marawalsh@gmail.com, and I'll send you a brochure and a customized quote or anything that you're looking for. Okay, I want to review a few ways for you to interact with us during this event. Feel free to ask questions about the tour director, or my travel program through the Q&A, the Q&A link on the toolbar. Or if you're looking to chat with me directly and you don't want us to talk, you don't want to ask the question live, you can put it in the chat and I'll do my best to get back to you after this introduction. And as always, I always like to include an interactive poll. This one being no different from the rest, which essentially is, what is your connection to Slovenia? I have been and loved it. I have a trip booked. I plan to go in the future, or I have no set plans, but I'm interested in the location. I am solely interested in experiencing it virtually. So I'll let that go for a little bit. We have about 50% of the people who have responded. If you're on Facebook, you could just put it in the comments. And those people that are working on devices that you can't see the survey poll, you can, feel free to put it in the chat. But it looks like, I'm going to end this poll. It looks like we have most people, about 50%, have no set plans or interested in the location. But there are about 15% who have been, and just 2% who have a trip booked. So I think what we're going to do is convert those people from the no set plans to the I have a trip booked. So that's your job, Primoz, and you'll be doing that as you share the love of your country for us. And as always, today's tour and all of our tours are scheduled for 90 minutes plus the Q&A. So I hope you're ready for the presentation. And as you know, a tour would not be complete without a fantastic tour director. And we have a very experienced tour guide with us today, but a first timer for Girl Travel Tours. So I will be welcoming Primoz, who will come in and share his love for the region and his homeland with all of us. During our practice sessions, I have completely understood why this region is a must add to the bucket list, and I think you will soon see as well. I'll share with you via chat and during the Q&A how you can tip the tour guide. If you appreciate this presentation and our guide's knowledge, all of the tips go directly to the guide once collected, minus the Zoom operating expenses. So today I want to welcome Primoz. Welcome and hello. Feel free to come on and join me, Primoz. Unmute yourself and share your screen, and you can get a tour going to Slovenia. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Mara, and hello, all of you. Thank you for such a nice introduction and such a nice presentation. Again, my name is Primoz Škocjan, and I am a state licensed tour guide right here in Slovenia. Today we are going to do the tour around the beautiful country, and the plan is to tell you all these, I would say, statistics and general information about the country, followed by introduction of our itinerary. Then we'll do the tour, and at the end you are more than welcome to ask the questions, and I'll be more than glad to answer them. To start with, you see, Slovenia is the only country in the world to have a word love in the middle. And you know, it was not recently, until recently, when people hearing about meeting me for the first time, they would ask me, Primoz, can you tell me a little bit about Slovenia, where it is? And so I really want to make this clear once and for all. Here you can see the map of Europe. And if you on this map you find Italy. This is this boot-shaped country. You go up north, and once you almost bump into the Alps, we turn east, that is to right, and here it is. This is us, Slovenia. I bolded the borders of our country with blue so that you can see it more clearly and get the, I would say, a big picture where we are. Right. So now to this general information, Slovenia is approximately a size of New Hampshire in the United States, or Wales in the UK, and the population is as big as 2 million inhabitants. Average salary sums up to 1,200 euro per month. This is what we get on our bank account. It's rather low comparing to living costs. The capital of Slovenia is Ljubljana. This is where I was born and raised. And we live now in parliamentary democracy. I always start my tours with one, I would say, interesting sentence, and that is that Slovenia is all about short distances and big diversities. You see, it's actually the only European country where Karst meets Alps, Pannonian lowland, and coast. Please don't be worried about these names of geographical units. We are going to explain them on our way, on our tour. And I would really like to do this a bit differently. First, you can see Italy is our neighboring country on the west, Austria on the north, Hungary on the northeast, and Croatia on the east and southeast. This makes this small country really, I would say, encircled by many nations, and that has influenced our past as well. You see, as of short distances that I mentioned, the longest distance from our coast to border with Hungary sums up to approximately 200 miles, and I'm talking about the road, not straight distance. And as of diversity, I already mentioned all these geographical units, and the plan is today we are going to start with Karst region. From there we'll move to extreme southwest to our coast, to Adriatic Sea. From there we'll jump north to the Alps. And finally, we'll end these geographic units on the northeast with Pannonian lowland. We'll talk about Ljubljana just briefly. As you can see, it's underlined, the capital, almost in the geographical center of the country. And here it is. I planned this tour a bit differently, you know. On one side, we are going to talk about these tourist sites. We are going to visit popular sites, and we'll compare them to off the beaten path destinations. Here on the Karst, we'll first visit Škocjan caves, then we'll move to Predjama Castle, both representing the very touristic destinations, and we'll move to then to Cerkniško jezero. This is Cerknica Lake, one of the greatest mysteries in Slovenia, and to the Rakov Škocjan land park. Once we'll do this, we'll jump to the coast. There we'll visit the city Piran. Piran is a very romantic city, as you'll see it later on, and popular tourist destination, and we'll compare it to, I would say, area of the Karst edge, signed with the number 2. From there, we'll move north. You see, this is what I mean, short distances. Under number 1, most popular area, Lake Bled. Number 2, Bled Vintgar Gorge, awfully combined into the detour, versus Zgornje Gorje settlement and Pokljuka Gorge as representatives of the beaten path destinations. From there, this will move to northeast, Pannonian lowland, and we have only one thing to see there. It's not divided into the of the beaten path destinations and popular destination because it's often overlooked by tourists, and it's all one big of the beaten path place. Right. And we'll do Ljubljana city really briefly. Later on, it's our capital. And now back to Karst. It's our beginning. What is Karst? Karst is simply an area where the limestone prevails under the ground. As you might know, limestone dissolves in the water, and through many of millions of years, this is how different karst formations have developed, with caves in which you can find lakes, stalactites and stalagmites on the left photo, and on the right you can see examples of the natural tunnels and natural bridges. Then there are karst valleys with rivers, such as this one here. From there, we'll move to Škocjanske jame caves, another I would say, really popular destination. And we can start here with this beautiful view of the Škocjan caves. Now, what you can see here are two sinkholes with a bridge in the middle. This once used to be karst cave, covered with a karst ceiling, with a limestone ceiling. And as mentioned before, the limestone dissolves in the water, and through many of millions of years, the ceiling became so thin that it finally collapsed. And these two sinkholes emerge. But when speaking about the Škocjan caves, I'm not talking about the sinkholes. The most important things and the most beautiful things are hidden under the ground. This is how they look at, from the above, and this is actually, these few houses are the only settlement around here. And from here, walking tour starts into the underground system. And again, this is it represents the very touristic destinations. You enter what we call a silent passage. Why silent? You see, a river runs through this cave, and it running through the stones and rocks, it causes really loud noise. And here at the beginning, we are very far from that river, and you cannot hear any noise. And this is why it is called a silent hole. You can see here really teeny stalactites and stalagmites, those hanging from the walls. The teeny ones, they are called spaghetti for the obvious reason, because they are so small and teeny. Once passing them by, you stop at the pools. These small pools behind this fence, small fence. They are, of course, made of limestone, and full of water. It's better to see them from a side. This is how they look from the side. And then you come to the really big stalagmite. So what's the difference between the stalagmites and stalactites? Stalagmites, they grow from the ground, and stalactites, they grow from the ceilings. It is called the giant, the biggest stalagmite in the cave. This is on the left photo, and on the right photo, you can already see the path that leads to the area with the river down below. It's there where this really loud noise starts, and here on both, on the left and on the right side, you can see the canyon. This is actually one of the highest and biggest underground canyons in the world. It measures approximately 2 miles. It's approximately 2 miles long and approximately 500 feet high. 500 feet high. And it opens a stunning view to the river down there below. On the left photo, you can see a small person wearing a red-colored dress with a light on the head, so that you can get the impression how big, how enormous this underground canyon really is. Next, you can call it a baby dragoon, but it's a reptile known as Proteus with Latin name. We call it a human fish. Why? Simply because of its color. It has a color of a human fish, and it's a small blind animal. It lives in darkness, and its specialty is that it lives over 100 years old, over a century, and it gets its youngest one time in a century. Right. A next interesting part of this cave system is also the environment outside. Here you can see Mediterranean plants, and it's one of the rarest places in the world where you can see Mediterranean plants growing next to Alpine mountain flowers. How is this possible? You see, the north, the Alps, and the climate conditions from north, they meet climate conditions of the Mediterranean coast right here at Škocjan caves. And you see, this is why these plants can grow sometimes not much more than 3 feet away from each other. Now, due to 4 things: the beautiness of these caves, one of the highest underground canyons, this reptile, the human fish or Proteus that we saw, and this ecosystem where the Alpine plants grow near the Mediterranean plants. Due to these 4 reasons, Škocjan caves are listed on the UNESCO World Heritage List. From these Škocjan caves, we move north some 15, perhaps 10-15 miles north to the Predjama. Predjama is known after the Predjama Castle. I will show it to you right immediately. on your left photo, on our left photo, you can see that the Predjama Castle is perched in the middle of the 500 high cliff. And on the right photo, you can see the Predjama Castle with a hollow, with a cave behind it. It's, let me tell you first that the Predjama Castle is the biggest cave castle in the world. And behind it, there is another castle. Actually, there are two castles, one that you can see here in front and the other at the back in the hole. They are connected with this, what used to be a drawbridge. And this is how the other part of the castle, or the other castle in the cave, looks like. It was a really good shelter when the armies came here and tried to invade it, break it, so the owners could hide themselves in this other part, this other castle. Here you can see how it looks from above, these openings. And the most famous owner was Erasmus of the Lek family. You can see him right here, sitting with a sword in his hand and dogs near by him. He was a well-renowned robber baron, I would say a Robin Hood. Our way of Robin Hood. He came into the conflict with one of the mightiest European medieval royal families, Habsburgs. He killed one of his soldier commander, and he was chased into this castle where he found a shelter. And believe it or not, the armies couldn't find him, couldn't kill him, and he was laughing at them from his windows. He made jokes. At one occasion, he evenly had baked the whole ox. And let me move it back to the previous photos. And he would throw the whole bacon ox from the windows of the castle to arms below. So he said they wouldn't be hungry, despite the fact that they were his enemies. So how was that possible? Well, this baron, he was really well connected with surrounding settlements, with a mystery secret net of underground tunnels. You can see them here, starting here. This is a really big underground system of tunnels, and believe me or not, they are not all explored yet. Another photo of them, and you can take easily a tour of Predjama Castle, including this net of the underground tunnels. You can spend here the whole day researching how he was connected with the surrounding villages and settlers, where he got supplies of food and drinks and all what he needed. Okay, another short distance from Predjama Castle, it is one, what I would say, the biggest mystery of Slovenia, Cerknica Lake. It is actually the intermittent lake. Now, what does that mean? Here is the Cerknica plain, and you might wondering, where is here the lake? I mentioned you, it's intermittent. That means it appears and reappears several times a year right here on this plain. when it's full, it looks like this, surrounded by hills. And what you see here, it's not, I would say, this is not how it looks like at its fullest. This slope on our extreme left side that you can see becomes a real island when it's totally full, becoming our biggest lake in Slovenia, measuring 36 square kilometers. That's approximately 18 to 20 square miles. And this is how it looks like when it's dry. A small stream runs through the valley of Cerknica. And finally, let me reveal the mystery. How is this possible? The water and the lake is simply the result of incoming water and outgoing water. Incoming waters are, of course, rainwaters, melting snow, and all the streams coming from the mountains, from the slope of these mountains, and coming from the underground systems. And the outgoing flows, the river, the lake, the water disappears in the siphons, or I would call them funnels, at the lake bed. Here is such an example of a funnel where the lake disappears. And another example right here. So imagine lake appears and disappears. It's a life system, changing every day. But at the dry season, it's again only one small stream running through the valley. At its fullest, turns into the biggest lake in Slovenia. It's very important wetland of the I would say international importance, high international importance. Why? Here live over 270 birds. This one I picked up, it's a dipper. Over 270 birds, which means more than half of all European bird species. It is home, this place is home to more than 45 mammals. Amongst them, here live all three big European wild beasts. These are wolves, these are wolves, brown bear, and lynx. Perhaps if you're not familiar with the expression lynx, sometimes they are called also bobcats. These are the cats with the conic ears. It is also home to special kinds of plants, such as this that you can hear. These are carnivores or meat-eating plants. Don't be afraid, they are not big. They would eat only small flies or mosquitoes. So why would visit such a this lake? First of all, it's beautiful. It's interesting. You can walk around. You can go hiking from nearby slopes. You can look all the landscape. You can come here to paddle. You can come here to skate in the winter time. You can swim in the lake in the summertime. There live also many fishes in the lake, and you can come here to for fishing. And in the summertime, in the dry season, locals, they come here to mow the grass, to dry it, to become the fodder for the cattle during the winter time. And I hope you notice these hills around the lake full of forests. Let me tell you, it's not far away from here where areas with virgin forests begins, and some small areas in which mass food has never stepped in. It's possible to go to see such a forests areas as well from a close distance. Okay, there's also a museum, and where it is represented how such a boats used to be made, I would say like 100 or 150 years ago. And this brings us to another of the beaten path destination, as mentioned before, Rakov Škocjan Land Park. So it's nothing much more than 1.5 miles long karst valley through which this river Rak runs. Its story is pretty much similar to the story of the Škocjan caves. Why? This valley used to be another cave with a limestone ceiling on the top, and as is it expected, as you might already guess, the ceiling collapsed due to melting in the raindrops water. It collapsed, and the bigger rocks were melted through through thousands and millions of years in the river that runs through the valley. What's left, I mean, the remnant of the ceiling are two bridges that I'm going to show you right now. On the left photo, you can see the big natural bridge that rises approximately 150 feet high, and on the right side, the small natural bridge at the bottom. You can see two holes. It is there where the Rak River comes to the surface for the first time with its name Rak. Actually, this is the same water that you saw a few seconds ago in the lake Cerknica. So part of the water from Lake Cerknica sinks into the ground and appears back here in this Rakov Škocjan valley. I simply put this photo here that you can get the impression how big and enormous the bridge is. And well, it's obviously that I visited this place in the summertime. Actually, it was last summer. It was such a dry area that also the river sank into the ground, and the riverbed was dry, which was really rare and very, I would say, rare, really rare and prizeful experience for me. To another bridge, you have to climb down the slope, and first you come to such a tunnel. Once you exit the tunnel, you cross this teeny small bridge, obviously made by a man, and from there you pass by another tunnel and and you finally come to the place that we saw from above, where the river Rak comes from to the surface for the first time. And this is actually how this small bridge looks like from the bottom of the valley. And another photo on the left. This is how it looks like, how it separates two windows, and it is a remnant of the whole cement link once covering the whole valley. On the right photo, just another hollow in a cliff. Cliffs around this area are full of such hollows formed by the water. You can play seek and hides in them, as my children here. This group I had, well, I mentioned that this is, I told you that this is off the beaten path destination, and this group are actually home tourists, Slovene guys during the Corona times. They couldn't travel, and well, we kind of organized small groups for Slovenians, for Slovenian tourists in Slovenia. I showed them a little bit around, so you can go hiking here from one bridge to another bridge. There is like 1.5 hour hiking. You can. There is also this church archaeological site of 16th century built to prevent locals from invasions of Ottoman or Turks in the 15th and 16th century. Right. Now we just did this Karst region, and from the Karst region we move southwestern to our coast. Here we'll talk about Piran, the most romantic city in Slovenia, as our tourist destination, and you'll compare it with another area, what is called the Karst Edge, under the number signed with the number 2. It's not a place, it's more or less area where Karst ends and a coastal area begins. Okay, let's start with Piran right here. It's situated on the Horn on the Piran Peninsula. Very romantic city. You'll see right here on the last photo. You can see how it looks from the church tower from above, and on the right photo how picturesque and colorful it is from a side. And from the other side, you can see a church of St. George on the top of it. Really, really beautiful. The church of St. George. St. George was a saint. It's very often depicted as a young fellow riding a horse, fighting with the dragon. He is a patron of Christianity. So the dragon represents pagan beliefs, and he, as a representative of Christianity, beats the old religions. Right. City of Piran is full of these small narrow streets. Sometimes they are so narrow that two people can barely pass by each other. Here you can see how they look like, and they all come to one point. This is a square. They all lead to this square, which is a great meeting point for the locals to enjoy a drink or two, doing their small talk. Local children gather here to play around, and tourists tourists, they also visit this place to enjoy seafoods in the delicious restaurants. In case that you are wondering what's this square, what's this cistern, well, let me show you. It was built by the end of 18th century after a long drought period without any rain. So people here decided to build a cistern, and they gather here the raindrop water from the gutters around these houses. Right. Again, you can see here the church of St. George, which dominates the city. And from this tower, those photos were taken at the beginning, that you saw the city from above. And another thing is that the city has some nice beaches and really a long chain of restaurants with delicious seafood, and it ends at the peninsula with this lighthouse or light tower. As mentioned, people come here not to enjoy just the architecture or seafood, they come here to swim in the sea. And the city is also known after Tartini. This fine gentleman on our right was Giuseppe Tartini. He was born here in Piran in the 18th century, and he was really famous composer, famous violinist, player, and a teacher. He composed like 180 concerts for the violin and 120 sonnets just for the violin. And his most famous work is the Devil Trilled Sonata, really demanding song in the terms of technique of playing, even in the today's standards, even according to the today's standards. Yes. And they raised the monument here, and obviously the square here was named after him, so it's called the Tartini Square. But it wasn't always so. You see, the square here from above, the Tartini Square, used to be narrow bay, and sailors sailing by this bay would use it as a shelter in the case of the storm. So fishermen, sailors, merchants, whoever found himself or herself in the storm would find here a shelter, and a sort of a dock, a sort of pier was built. A small harbor was built, and it was so almost to the end of the 19th century. When they fill up this harbor, this sea with stones. So why would they do so? You see, first of all, the harbor had really this bad smell. This used to spread all over the city, and so they wanted the harbor to move away from the city. And secondly, they wanted to prevent the city from the plague that would be spread from the boats to the mainland and would cause many deaths. And this is why they decided to fill up the harbor and build new one away from the city. right? And there is also really interesting story how the city got its name. You see, before this square, 13 square that you can see right here, when still here was a harbor, this was really narrow harbor with shallow sea, and it would be really easy to miss it or to bump into the shore if one was not cautious enough. So this is why locals used to light big fires on both sides of the bay, so the sailors would find their way into the harbor. And the Greek word for the fire is pier. And this is how Piran got its name, after Greek expression for the fire, pier. You know, to connect this, to be more, for you to be more familiar with this expression, you think of, I don't know, of fireworks for the New Year's time or whatever. They're with other, what they're called pyrotechnical means. Pyrotechnical. So pier, fire. So this was just another way to tell you, to show you the path, how you can easier remember it, right? So it looks from the bottom, from its bottom, the statue of Tartini in the middle, surrounded with some beautiful old buildings. Right, and this one I made at the night time. Yes, it's safe to say that the city was built on the income of the salt. In the past, like 1,000 years ago, here were many salt pans, and they went bankruptcy 3 times, and were renovated, brought back to life, went to bankruptcy again, and you cannot see any salt pans in the city anymore. There are some in its surroundings, but they are all called the salt pans of Piran, just because of their old tradition. You know all how the salt emerged. They let this seawater into these shallow pools. The water evaporates, and doing so, a salty crust emerges. Now, at that point, the salt is not ready to use. Why I'm mentioning this is because on the top of such crust, special salt crystals form, and they represent the highest possible quality of the salt, right? It is known as a salt bloom. So the crystals on the top of the crust. Once they collect it, they let the whole water to evaporate, and they start to gather, as you can see here, salt from the pools. Okay, this was this Piran city, and from there we move back towards Karst, towards the actually Karst edge. So what's Karst edge? It's literally what it is, a Karst edge. Look at it. It's a limestone I would say cliff that is over 10 miles long and some 3 miles wide. it's totally of geological origin. What does that mean? In the past, this area was all under the sea, and due to pressing of the African continent towards Europe, this what once used to be bottom of the sea emerged and raised to the surface. And it represents an interesting border here towards sea. That means towards down the slopes. There is a total other rock as a stoneware under the ground. It's called flysch, and from there on limestone prevails. So it represents a sort of a border between the flysch and the limestone. And here it is how it looks like from the close. You can see some caves that were filled with water many millions of years ago. And why people visit places, because you can go here for hiking, enjoy the beautiful nature, not many tourists. So another example of the beaten path destination, and because the really beautiful view. Now you can see the harbor in far. This is our biggest port in the city of Koper. It's actually our only international port. That means this is why our coast is also our window to the world. On the left, you would see, not here, on the next photo, you will see city of Trieste in Italy. And before we go there to see it, look at this small settlement, this few houses down there. This is already Italy. So the border is actually between Slovenia and Italy is actually on this edge towards the west, towards the south northwest, and on the left it is Slovenia. This is the city of Trieste from above. And yes, it's not just another cave, as you might mistakenly think. It's like I would say few hundreds of feet away from this Karst edge. Inside there is this cave in which you can find the only cave church in Slovenia built in the 2 levels, right? And on the left photo you can see a castle that stands proudly. You can imagine, because of its strategic position, literally on the karst itself, on the edge itself. It used to be a strategic point. And it has a really hard and colorful history. It was always a border between the Habsburgs and the Venetian Republic. It's a border between flysch and limestone. See, and now it is a border between Slovenes and between Slovenia and Italy. It used to be a border between Yugoslavia and Italy. You see, Slovenia used to be a part of Yugoslavia up to 1991. And after the Second World War, such a bunkers was built to defend, to protect the land from Italian, from the fascists. And they were used during the war also to defend the land from the fascists, right? And this is how the castle looks from above, with the view of the Trieste Bay as a background. And people do not come here just to walk, hike in the nature, or visit the castle, see the coast. they come here to join, to take part on a special trip. I would say a truffle trip, because there are many guides that that do the tours in which they search the truffles, as here, for example. They search it with the pigs or with dogs, depends. Some of guides, they put truffles into the ground, into the soil, so they just demonstrate how they are found. But there are some as well that are doing it in a way that they really find pristine, genuine truffles, not put by a man inside. So yeah, it is another possibility to do so. And this is a special plant that grows here in the wild. It's called wild asparagus. Very good, very tasty, especially in the springtime, where it's recommended to visit it to collect some wild asparagus. This is how it looks from a settlement from below. It's not the Italian part, it's the Slovenian part. This one, you can see how steep are the rocks and how steep are the cliffs here. And many athletes from all around Europe come here just to do this climbing training, to do the preparation for the climbing right here, right? And it's obviously a Karst region, known after prosciutto, a really tasty piece of meat. It's actually a rare pig's leg, dried in the salt and on the cold northern wind called bora. This is how it looks like, the production of prosciutto, or better, this is not a production, it's the drying. You can see here the drying procedure of the prosciutto legs. You see here in Slovenia, producers, they let prosciutto to be, or rare leg pigs to be dried on the wind and embraced into the salt naturally. They do not add any chemicals to speed up the procedure. And it's interesting that it takes really at least 7 years time to train people so they can tell when such a prosciutto is edible, when it's dried enough to be edible. So how they do it? They simply step inside a long teeny wood, and when they pull it outside, they smell it, and by the smell they can tell whether the prosciutto is edible or not. And it takes really long time to learn this I would say technique. Now we did our coast. We compared our coast and the Karst. We compared there the tourist destination with off the beaten path places, and now we are moving north. Not very far from north. You see, I mentioned Slovenia is all about short distances. From here to coastal area, you would need like 2 hours drive, nothing much. And here we will visit most tourist destination, most visited, most popular tourist destination, Lake Bled and Bled Vintgar Gorge, often combined in a day tour, with the Zgornje Gorje settlement, and a friend of mine who is farmer there. She grows berries, all kinds of them, and will peep into the Pokljuka Gorge, another gorge which is oftenly overlooked by the tourists. And just look at it, how close they come together at this point. And it's so sad that people just look what's on the first hand, despite these tourist places are beautiful, and no, they did not spend time visiting other places as well. So without any further ado, let's see first our Lake Bled. Most famous tourist destination of Slovenia. Lake Bled is of Alpine origin. That means that all this region used to be covered with a thick, I would say at least 300 feet thick layer of ice. And when it melted, it somehow excavated the hollow into the ground. And when it melted, it sliced down the slopes. And when it hit the bottom, it somehow excavated the hollow into the ground. And when the ice was melted, the lake appeared. And this is the result. In this direction, this picture is taken from the castle. You can see the Julian Alps. And from this picture, from the other side, you can see the caravans here posing to a young couple, American couple. They were so friendly and they let me do the photo. I wanted to do a photo to have a couple or some, not too many, just some people on it. Right. And from here, there opens a view to the valley between the caravans and Julian Alps, and to, of course, really beautiful island in the middle of the lake. It's funny though, because it's the only lake in Slovenia, and that means including also our coastal area. On the coast, in the sea, we do not have any island. The only one we have here on the lake. Right, I will just quickly jump to previous photo. This one, because it has a really interesting history, and I would like to share it briefly with you. You see, it was in the times of the Habsburgs, the times of the Empress Maria Theresa. She gave this land to the locals right here, so they would be able to cultivate it and to get some food out of it and to gain some money from the products. You see, here on our on the left side of the photo, there is 1 cubic house of the white color, and behind, next to it, right next to it, there is a small narrow bay. This area behind this bay once was called Mlino, and people in the times of Maria Theresa there got in a possession a really bad type of a land, low quality of the land. So she would allow them to own a special boat which is called Pletna. We are going to see it in a few seconds, and you can see the castle here from the lake, and from here you can get a really right impression how thick the glacier really was. It's actually approximately 500 feet above the lake. Another view. People come here to row, as rowing sport has developed here, and some Olympia winners were born nearby the lake in the Bled settlement. And these are the Pletna boats I was talking about before. you see, Maria Teresa allowed those people that lived on this small bay of Mlino to own such a boat. Why? So they could supply the island and people and monks and priests living on the island to compensate the loss of their income due to the bad quality land. And this became a sort of a tradition, a sort of a guild that was passed, a sort of a right that was passed from father to their sons, that lasted a really long time, over 200 years, and it ended in 1948, 3 years after the end of the Second World War. Nowadays it's a modern form of a guild. Of course, you can come here, you can swim in the lake in the summertime, you can paddle, you can bring your own boat, you can paddle around the lake, but only to them it is allowed to bring people in such a Bledna boat to the castle for money. So it's still a sort of tradition. And by the way, if you are going to join Mara Walsh trip in 2024, you'll visit this place as well. You'll be able to go with such a Bledna to the island, or even better, you'll be able to visit the castle and enjoy the view. Right. Coming to this place, you absolutely have to know, despite this lake being of an alpine origin, it belongs to the group of so-called warm alpine lakes. That means the water here rises in the summertime up to 26 degrees and people do swim inside. The lake is full of fishes, so they come here for fishing as well. And in the winter time, I will say it used to freeze. It used to freeze to that extent that people were skating on the ice, walking around the island, coming from the shore to the island on foot. And up to 1975 approximately, there were, as you can see here on this old photo, motorbike races took place on the ice around the lake, dragging skiers behind them, as you can see here at the bottom of this photo. Right, nowadays we are lucky if the lake even freezes. Right, and another must when coming to Bled is to try this typical Bled cake called kremšnita, made of soft vanilla cream and crust on the top and its bottom. So coming to Bled, at least 3 things you have to do. Taste this cake, visit the castle, and visit the island by Bledna boat. And the next such a tourist destination, often combined with the Lake Bled, is also Bled Vintgar Gorge. They combine these 2 destinations to become 1 full day trip. Right, and what is this gorge? Actually, it's just a beautiful nature gorge made by Radona river, which made this really narrow gorge among these limestone walls. Actually, it's nothing much to tell about it. It's all about enjoying the nature and the view. So let's walk through it. Such a path and bridges were built so people can actually access the river, and they can admire the beautiness of the nature from the close. Again, here now these paths are without tourists, but believe me, in the summertime this is crowded. People stopping, making photos. So it's advisable to visit it like in not in a rush hour. If I may suggest, I would do this first. If you come from Ljubljana, I would do this tour in this Bled Vintgar Gorge first, and later the tour on the Bled, just to escape, just to avoid the crowd. Right, and the path will lead you all the way parallel to the river. Once arriving here, you'll pass by beautiful, picturesque landscape. You'll be crossing the bridges, and you'll see some beautiful fishes such as trout in crystal clear water. Above the canyon there lit stone arched bridge made for the railway tracks. It still runs here, mainly for the locals commuting to work. And once a week on Sundays, a big old steamer runs here, connecting these places with our coast. They bring tourists from here to our coast, stopping in the different places. It's a really nice experience, beautiful experience. You get in touch with locals. You can admire local life. At the end, they invite you to collect some cherry from the cherry trees. This is basically how the gorge ends, with a beautiful waterfall called Šum. Šum, translated into the English, literally means noise. It's obviously why it got its name. Right, these were two tourist destinations, and from here, let's move to the off the beaten path places. Right, we'll visit the Zgornje Gorje settlement. It's embraced by beautiful Alps, piled with green meadows, and here these fields that you can see are already fields of my friend Mateja, the one that is in love with organic farming, and she loves to grow berries right here. These are her gardens. What kinds of berries she grows here. On the right side you can see black aragon. On the left side you can see red aragon. Besides them, you can see some. She grows also cranberries, strawberries, all kinds of berries, lavender, rhubarb, and wheat. It's allowed type of a wheat. This one here, she does it all in 100% organic way, and she sells the products, food, to the market, and therefore she is inspected really often. So not to use any chemicals and other things that could damage our health. Right. She also formed a sort of energetic garden, a garden that attracts and gives good energy for the whole village that you can see here in front of us in the middle. She cooperates with some local beekeepers. By the way, beekeeping is important activity in Slovenia. We are really in love with beekeepers, in love with bees. We think of bees as the most important animals in the world because bees they actually pollinate 75% of the world's plants, which stand for over 90% of the world's food. So without bees, there are no vegetables, no animals, and no humans. And this is why we think of them as most important animals. Our bee species is called Grey Carniolian bee, which can be translated into the Grey Slovenian bee, is second most populated bee species in the world. And it's not so aggressive towards humans and very, very hard working. And so, yes, Mateja cooperates with local beekeepers so that the bees, they pollinate her vegetables and the products, fruits and everything on her fields. Besides, she grows also chickens, and if you visit her, she'll be more than glad to show you around. She will walk you through the garden. You'll be collecting eggs from the chicken coop, and if you made an arrangement, she'll cook for you a delicious lunch made of organic, 100% organic local food. Very tasty. I tried it. Now, imagine visit her and eating delicious food. She also have a well of her own with underground water. She collects the water here in the outside in the pool, so the water becomes more, I would say, it becomes more soft and more appropriate for watering the fields. Yes, she collects things. She gathers crops, appropriate crops, and she dries them under this wooden structure. This is another really important structure for us Slovenes. It's called kozolec or hayrack. It's a traditional building, unique for Slovenia. Well, there are many hayracks around the world. In Austria, even in Asia, you'd find some. However, the combination that there is no basis, that it stands on its own, and the fact that in Slovenia, only in Slovenia, they are developed several different kind of shapes of the hayrack, and that is so in Slovenia supposed to be totally wooden. This combination makes it unique for Slovenia. And on the right side, you can see it was used to dry and storage the hay during the winter, time. And Mateja keeps here her products. A treasure chest, what she calls her. In such a small bottles, you get the 100% organic vinegar, different kinds of teas, creams. Imagine you can take a cream and to put it on your skin, and all of a sudden you're hungry, and you can eat it. I did it myself. Or she makes different kinds of sprays with different kinds of tastes. And again, you can refresh yourself, or you can make an aromatic beverage of a spray combined with the water. Up to you. I'm not just telling you this. I did it myself. So, and she knows what she's doing. You see here on the left side, she collects the leaves of the dried roses to become tea one day for someone. Here on the right side, you can see a lot of books. She has written 3 books up to now. All they are about the growing of the organic products in your garden, about cooking classes, what can you do with organic food, how to prepare it, that it does not lose all the healthy ingredients, all kinds of stuff. She does cooking classes. You can visit her. And as mentioned, she will ring a bell to call you for the lunch or the dinner, if depends on your agreement. Now imagine to combine such a beautiful off the beaten path tour visit at Mateja with this beautiful Pokluka Gorge that I'm going to show you, hiking through Pokluka Gorge with absolutely no people, no tourists, even locals you won't find here. This gorge was also made by a river, but during the time the water sinked under the ground. More or less, this is now dry riverbed that you are walking on. You can see on the right side, it's almost abandoned. It's almost abandoned, this valley. And again, it's all about beautiful nature, walking through niches, gardens, passing natural bridges. You can visit such beautiful caves made of limestone with windows inside. Here you can see here in the middle of this cliff, sort of a wooden path leading through the niche. Once from above on the left photo, you can see how it looks like from the above this path, and on the right photo you can see how it opens a view from this wooden path. And yes, once you exit it, you come to another beautiful path, which would lead you up to come to such a beautiful plateau. Again, depending, you can stop here to have a lunch or drink, walk a little bit around, and then return back to Mateja. Now, I'm not saying what is beautiful. This is not my intention. What is more beautiful, or what you should visit, what you shouldn't visit, just to show you and for you to be able to compare what can you do besides visiting the main highlights of Slovenia, right? From here, we'll jump to the extreme northeastern part of Slovenia, the Pannonian lowland. As the name says, it's a lowland, flat land that used to be covered with a shallow sea. Pannonian lowland embraces many countries, and only a part of it reaches through Slovenian borders. Look at it. As mentioned, covered with a shallow sea due to tectonic movements. the seabed somehow came to the surface, shallow sea evaporated or leaked into the ground. And animals and plants living in the sea somehow fertilize this land. It is very fertile, and you'll see here a lot of wheat fields, cornfields, buckwheat fields, and vineyards. Many high quality wines come from these places. These wines here are more sweet, whereas wines on our coast are dried and strong, both delicious, both competing proudly with Italian, French, and other wines. Right. So another example of vineyards here, and wheat fields. People come here to see also the typical Pannonian house. Pannonian house, how people used to live here 200 years ago. Such houses were built of a mud combined with straw, perhaps some rocks to get the walls, and the roof used to be covered with a deep layer of the straw. Each house had to have a garden with its own well. You see, I visited with my family. We visited this place, and at the local inn, we talked about it. We wanted to visit to see such a house, and there was this nice fellow who told me where the village of such a typical houses are, Pannonian houses are, but I didn't want to visit the museum of such a houses. I wanted to see and visit the genuine house in which people still live. And this nice gentleman took me to this house. It is so hidden, I wouldn't find it myself, never. And I was able to visit locals still living in such a beautiful house. Why I told you this unusual story? Because I want to let you know that this area, Pannonian land, is not just a land of vineyards, of vast fields. It's also the land of the nicest people, most friendly people in Slovenia. There were several mills on the river in this area. Now only one is still operational, where locals come here to crush the corns, wheat, whatever, to get some flour. It's also the land of the storks. They come here to nest. You see, we say that the storks, they bring children. This is what we say, and they make nests on the roofs or such pillars. It's also the area with very delicious food, and it's something that you should try here. Perhaps if you remember or put it down, gibanica, it's something it completely must. From here we jump to Ljubljana, that we are going to talk about really shortly. Ljubljana is the capital of Slovenia, located almost in the center of Slovenia, and this is the famous Prešeren Square, beloved meeting point for the locals, tourist groups. It's surrounded with beautiful buildings. Here we are facing the the Church of St. Francis of Assisi, the first Baroque church in the city, and the next to it, right next to it, on its right side, you can see the first trade house with highest prices in Slovenia, and more to the right, the shiny white building is our first pharmacy house. Ljubljana is also known as a river of, by Ljubljana, it's a river, the river of the bridges, and also as the Dragon Bridge, as a city of the dragons. Well, many things to see in Slovenia, many things to see and do in Ljubljana. This is how we brought our tour to the end. Thank you so much for your attention. It was a pleasure to host you here in Slovenia, to show you around. Perhaps you will join me on one or more of our tours. If you want to stay in touch with me, this is all what you need. Here, a link to my link tree, where you'll find all my links of a social media, email, internet site. So if you have questions about Slovenia, if you decide to travel and want to learn more about Slovenia, if you need help with itinerary, feel free to contact me on one of those links. I wish you all good, stay healthy, and travel a lot, and enjoy your life. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Primoz. I would say that the things that stood out for me is, one, for such a small country, how diverse it is. You know, I don't think many of us realized how much nature and organic beauty is in this country, and also the juxtaposition of, you know, the Alps to the plains, to the valleys, to the gorges. I mean, it's all extremely rural in some cases, where I don't know that many of us thought about that for such a small, tiny country. So it just shows us all why we need to visit Slovenia, and I look forward to doing that in 2024 with my group, and hopefully some of the people that are on this virtual tour. So if you're ready, we can jump over to the Q&A. You probably need to take a little drink and get yourself set for that. But I'll ask you to click on the Q&A tab on the bottom of your Zoom toolbar, and then go all the way to the top, and we'll start with those questions.
There is a question from Shirley Cunningham. Is the Karst area where the underground caves are found stable? Is there any danger to the settlements above? No, not really. People really know where to build house. It's a tradition. And on the other hand, yes, it is dangerous, because the sinkholes will eventually turn into the caves, and the ceilings will eventually collapse. That's the fact. What I wanted to say is also that Karst is really special to us. I always ask my guests if they know how many caves do we have, because there are too many. We don't know. Even we don't know how many caves do we have. Really stunning is in the information that we discover 100 caves each year, and that's quite a lot. I would say up to now we discover over 11,000 caves. Now let's move to another. I'm
gonna jump in there, because I have a couple things that will round out a lot of the questions,
please,
and maybe help a lot of the viewers. So talk to us in general about tourists, right? Like, what is the best time of year in terms of temperatures to come and see Slovenia? Because of the size, I'm assuming there's one centralized location that's best for you to stay in, and maybe you can do day trips and outings from that area. Talk to us about that. And then also, how many days would it take to see what we just saw today? So talk to us about a tour. Like, how would you craft that tour? What would it look like? Where would we stay? And what time of year would we best deserve to do it in?
Right. Okay, so I would suggest to visit Slovenia among between month of May and end of September. It's warm. When it's hot, you always can take too hot. If it's too hot, you can take tour in one of the many of caves. I mean, it's refreshing. Or you just go hiking in the nature. You can find yourself shade or rest in some cool remote place, for sure. And as well, if you are crazy about skiing, if you like winter sports, come to Slovenia in winter time. We have ski resorts, and it's really possible to do it. Like in the end of the May, we have a high ski resort in the north of Slovenia, and it's possible to go ski there, and at the same time you go south towards the coast and you go swimming there all in the same day. So what should a tour look like? How can one get around Slovenia? As you mentioned, Mara,
staying in one centralized location?
As you mentioned, Mara, it's possible to pick up one location, perhaps Ljubljana, and do the day tours around. A day tour to coast, a day tour to Karst, a day to the Alps, to the Pannonian lowland. Depends how much you want to see and how deep you want to go. But at least I would say at least 4 or 5 days. At least 4 or 5 days. However, it's possible to spend a month here without being bored. And it was a couple from Alaska that spent a month here. We were talking. They said, well, it was not enough time to see. Just to give you a picture how much there is to see. Or you can pick like 4 locations, one on the Karst, one in the Alps, and one in Pannonian land, and one on the coast. And you do then the tours around there. So you do like 3-day tours on the Karst, or 3-day tour and 3-day tours on the coast, 3-day tours on the Alps, 3-day tours tour on the in the Pannonian lowland with spas. Depends. You can go from 5-day tour to up to 14-day tour. Everything between goes.
When you say hot in the summer, can you give us a temperature?
The temperature rises up to 37, 38 degrees Celsius. I don't know how much is that in Fahrenheit. I guess a little bit, much over, a little bit more than 100, 105 Fahrenheit. And in the winter time, they can drop, depends on the region, as low as -10, -15 degrees Celsius. So yes, this is so. And I would, for first-time viewers, I would strongly suggest to do tours, comparing with the highlights, must-do things, and also to spend some time exploring on the beaten path destinations.
And I think that's easy to do when you have when you go on a group tour. You normally see the highlights, but then there's a lot of free time to go off and do the excursions that you would.
What I actually do, what I often do is with a group, even if it's a big group, I ask them, I tell them, well, we are going to see everything that's on the program, but if we can agree that you will spend less time on food, we'll do some things a bit quicker and we'll visit another of the beaten path destination. If they all agree, we do this. But of course, it's easier with smaller group, like 5-6 people. And yes, this is how I do it. The prices. What are the prices? The lunch depends. Would cost you somewhere, a good lunch would cost you somewhere around 15 euro. A liter of milk would cost you 1 euro. A kilo of bread, 2-3 euro, depends. Lately, the prices have risen due to the crisis in the East. If you want to rent a car, you would pay it, like, depends on the type of the car, somewhere 50-60 euro per day, 70 euro per day. And you can go, you you can cross the country yourself if you would like to. Entrance to the Bled Castle, 13 euro. Entrance to Postojna cave, and together with this Predjama Castle, 30 euro per person.
There's a good question in here, Primoz.
Yes.
If you're coming over from Italy, what would be the city to make that transfer over?
Venice or Trieste.
Mhm.
Venice or Trieste, and you can order. You can always call someone, even me, if you feel so. I come and we come here and pick you up with our own vehicles and bring you back to the center, to, let's say, to Ljubljana or to any other destination in Slovenia.
Another area of topic we didn't really touch on is how the World War affected Slovenia. Was there much damage to Slovenia from World War II? And then if you want to go into the war that's happening right now, is Slovenia accepting refugees and what's happening now in terms of that? But let's deal with the first one in terms of the damage of the past wars.
Okay, we obviously survived First and Second World Wars, both of them, and it was not easy. You see, as mentioned before, Slovenia was part of ex-Yugoslavia, and before then part of a kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. And the kingdom family and the king family, the royal family, just ran away at the beginning, and the army was not operational. So local people, they gathered, they went to the woods and started with bare hands their fight resistance. First, we were occupied by fascists, that would be Italians. They occupied Ljubljana and barbed wired the city. They didn't want the citizens of Ljubljana to connect with those who were living cities into the woods to fight to the enemies. They didn't want them to connect together, so they wouldn't be supplied with the food. They didn't succeed. People were really brave. However, Ljubljana was not bombed. Some bombs did fall on the countryside. In 1943, the Nazis came, and yes, the whole Slovenia, Ljubljana, was freed on the 9th of May 1945. Those were 4 tough years. My father still recall them, and he often tell me stories how they fight, how they fight against the collaborationists, how everything was organized. You know, little small stories that are so interesting. Mm-hmm. And the second topic, and no, Slovenia nature landscape was not damaged. Many people were taken to captivity, and many were just murdered. My grandfather survived 3 different camps, 2 Italian and 1 German camp. Okay, so the other part was if you're receiving refugees. The first crisis when appeared a few years ago, they had Slovenia was on a transit. Some stayed in Slovenia and they live nowadays as normal citizens. They have regular jobs. They are included in the society. But recent refugees coming from Ukraine, we received them. Country was we received a lot of them in the term, comparing to the size of the population in Slovenia and the size of the country, over 3,000 of them we received, and they're going to school. They're provided with everything: clothes, meal, school, education, and on the other side, the war seems so far away and yet so close at the same time. Far away because we are not worried about them, but close because we see the witnesses and refugees.
Yes, very sad, very, very sad. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to move on to some questions. I'm going to ask you many, and you can answer them quickly, and we can try to get through the whole list if you don't mind. Talking about Slovenia and food, cuisine, is it typical Eastern European food, or is there something specific to Slovenia?
There are so many specifics. I cannot name them each and every one. Despite being so small, in Slovenia developed 23 regions were their own kitchen. 23 kitchens were their own typical food. How so? First, we are surrounded with 4 different nations, and they have impacted our cuisine. Plus, different region, different type of fertility, different climate conditions. And as you saw, Slovenia is really very mounty country, and in the past it was really hard to grow to come from one place to another. So this is why so many different kinds different kitchens developed in the past. To mention a few: prosciutto, then potica, this is a roll made of crushed walnuts, raisins, a sort of a sweet with the pastry with the texture of the bread. Then sausages, Carniolan sausage, it's protected brand, things like that.
Sure.
Żganci, you cannot translate żganci. It's a sort of a spoon bread, they call it. I don't know if you can imagine this.
I'm going to take you back to the presentation, and let's talk about the houses on the edge of the sinkholes. There were so many people that asked, how sturdy are they? Are they in danger of falling? Is there stability on the edge of those cliffs? Like, talk to us a little bit about those buildings.
You know, it's limestone. It's a big fat rock. If houses won't fall there, if anywhere, then they are safe there. No avalanche or something nothing will break. And yes, it's not no danger at all.
Following that, you showed us a lot of buildings that had red roofs. Is there a significance of either the material or the color there?
Yeah. In the medieval time, especially in the cities, in the old city cores, people often covered their houses with red bricks. Yes, and it's typical.
Then you showed us the lake with the island, right? And the lake, there are a lot of questions about filling that lake. What is the process there? How long does it take? What goes on there? And then also the island. Are there any inhabitants to the island, or is it just visitors only?
Visitors only. There's a church. It's opened. There's a mass like once a month. However, you can get married there on the island, and a lot of tourists, they get married there. They come to for this purpose because of the scenery around the lake. It's a settlement. It's called with the same name, Bled, and people, they live there. And tourists, they come to visit. So what can you do? What can you do there? It's a good, of course, you can walk around the lake, you go to the castle. On the castle, there's so many things to do, not just the view. They have museum with where they represent, they show you how books were printed in the 16th century. They still make their own paper out of cotton. Many things on the castle. They have their own wine cellar. You can go with Pletna boat on the island. You can try this cake, this sweet cake that I showed you with the vanilla pastry, and it's a good starting point for hiking. Not just the gorge, Bled Vintgar Gorge. There are mountains. You can go hiking mountains. You can spend several days on the hill, not necessarily being on the dangerous steep slopes, but wavy, almost flat areas in the nature.
Mm-hmm.
There is his twin brother, the twin brother of the Lake Bled. There's another bigger lake called the Bachin. You can go there. It's like half an hour drive from there. And so, or if you are more adventurous or sports, you can go and do how they call this, paragliding in the tandem.
Paragliding, yes.
Yeah, paragliding. Or yeah. Mm-hmm. Things like that. You can taste the culinary, the food. I mean, a lot of things. Yeah, Alpine dairy farming.
Getting around Slovenia, is there public transportation, trains and buses, or do you just rent a car?
There are. You can go with train, by bus, but I would strongly recommend to rent a car because it sometimes takes too much time to come from one place to another. Mm-hmm. If you're visiting Slovenia like for 4, 5, 6 days, you don't want to spend 3 hours driving from one point to another. By public transportation, it's better to go by car.
Yes, agreed. And
but it's often included in the trip, you know. People, they just hire, they say just, I want to see this, I want to do that from Ljubljana, and they are taken with a guide, driver guide. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So after you've spent the last hour and a half telling us all the things to do in Slovenia, I'm going to bring it home with one of our viewers' comments, which is, just being at the lake is a magical experience. One does not necessarily want things to do, right? And that gives you, I think, the flavor and the feel of how wonderful and magical Slovenia is as a country and a place. So that'll bring me to the end, where I want to thank you very much, Primoz, for joining us and sharing your country with us. And thank you, everybody, for coming along and sharing this hour and a half or 2 hours with us. And please leave a tip for Primoz if you felt that this time with him was valuable. I want to say goodbye to everybody and welcome back next week. We'll see you again here on Tuesday of next week. Thanks again, Primoz. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Bye.